everyone, sorry I've been MIA lately. Life's been a bit hectic, so I haven't had time to do anything too in-depth. Despite that, like many of you, I went to see the Chainsaw Man movie last weekend. This isn't going to be a full-on review, that will probably come later, hopefully. But since then, something else caught my attention. That Guardian review, the controversial one, you probably know which one I'm talking about. And well, let's just say it made me feel a certain way. So I wanted to give my 2 cents on it from the perspective of a woman who actually enjoys this series. First off, let me make one thing clear. I'm not mad that The Guardian gave it a 2-star review. Honestly, I think critics with different perspectives are a good thing. If only fans are allowed to review something, you just end up with an echo chamber of 5 out of 5, masterpiece, chef's kiss, and stuff like that. Some opinions are just written for a different audience, and I think that's totally fine. Yes, it's pretty clear the reviewer hadn't seen the first season of the anime, but I think even a perspective from someone trying to go in blind and see if it works for them can be valid. In fact, up until that last paragraph, the review was surprisingly fair, I think, maybe even slightly positive. And well, then we get to that part, the end part. I'm just gonna quote it right here. Man, is it male-oriented though. From Denji's free-leaping fantasies to the fact Reze becomes more pornographic in appearance the more demonic she gets, Yoshihara is not shy about courting those who might have felt uniquely wronged by the opposite sex. What a waste, poor put-upon Denji's sighs. I just cut off a beautiful woman's leg. And this is the end of the review, as it is. So, right. I have 3 big issues with this. And they go beyond just someone didn't like a movie I enjoyed. First, it's the use of the word pornographic. Look, let's be honest, it's fan service. We all know it. No, it's just a convenient outfit excuses. And I don't want to get in the whole fan service bad or good debate. I think the issue is more nuanced and might warrant its own video. But man, pornographic? Really? Maybe I'm showing my age. I'm a 35-year-old woman after all, which some might consider old, particularly for a woman who enjoys anime and manga. But that just allows me to do the back in my day routine. So, with that being said, back in my day, that word implied quite a few steps beyond skimpy dressed woman in a fight scene. It honestly baffles me how easily you throw around heavy, loaded words for the most trivial of stuff. And the thing is, that has consequences, because it never stops at fiction. If every depiction of a revealing outfit gets labeled as pornographic, that kind of thinking bleeds into how we view real women too. It's naive to think otherwise. Not like this kind of attitude ever stopped, but to me it felt like there was a period in the late 2000s, early 2010s when it had gotten a bit better. Next, there is that line about the story courting those who might have felt uniquely wronged by the opposite sex. The article actually had to correct itself. It originally quoted Denji as saying "what a rush" instead of "what a waste," which I found revealing. It feels like the reviewer came in with a certain bias, maybe because anime is often stereotyped in certain circles. And well, if you come in looking for certain patterns, you'll probably end up thinking you found them. You'll also find Jesus in your morning toast if you stare long enough. As someone who's been wanting more female characters who get their hands dirty, both literally and figuratively, it's hard not to feel like this kind of framing actually hurts the likelihood of that happening. Thankfully, Japanese creators don't exactly hang on every word from English film critics. But still. The funny thing is, just before this paragraph, the reviewer actually correctly identified the problem. He wrote, "What the success of these titles tells us is there's an audience whose desires aren't currently being met by Hollywood pencil pushers." And then somehow failed to see how he might be contributing to this kind of result. All I'm saying is, if that fine scene was meant to be some kind of revenge fantasy for bitter dudes, well, it's a weird one. Because Denji doesn't exactly get off easy, and Reze more than holds her own. And finally, the big one for me, the part where it says, "Man, is it male-oriented though?" Now, I won't harp too long on the negative undertones there. This video is meant to be my perspective as a woman, but still. If something female-oriented got described that way, I would certainly find it insulting. I'm sure the guys can expand on that at length. My issue with it isn't just the tone, it's that it is treated like an obvious conclusion. And yes, I know, Chainsaw Man is technically a shonen, but 1. I doubt the reviewer knows what that means. 2. That's clearly not how they meant it. And 3. Shonen is actually the most popular manga demographic amongst both men and women. Despite the stereotype that anime and manga are a boys' club, almost half the people at my screening were women. And global statistics point to the fact that women actually read manga just as much as men do, if not more. It just varies by country. I'm actually working on a full video diving into this. I mean the whole editorial demographics versus actual reader gender ratios. And here's a quick stat from my sample data collected from MyAnimeList API. Based on users who declare their gender on Mal, Chainsaw Man is the 3rd most popular manga among female users. It's also rated in the top 100 overall, from a sample of over 10,000 female users rating about 25,000 manga titles. So, if this is supposedly obviously male-oriented, what would a female-oriented version of this story even look like? Denji in a maid outfit? Wait, actually, don't answer that. But more importantly, who's going to make it if people refuse to believe women even like this kind of story? Because from my experience, a lot of targeted at women action stories get way too watered down precisely because of these kinds of assumptions. And don't even get me started on the shame factor. If you've never heard of a woman admit she likes Chainsaw Man, think about this. How likely do you think someone is to casually say, "Yeah, I went to see Chainsaw Man the movie this weekend," when we have articles like this one calling it basically manosphere bait? And I rest my case.